You want to talk about the institution? You want to talk about standing up alongside Ukraine? Why don't we actually have a debate on the floor of the People's House instead of the garbage of getting a $40 billion bill at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Why don't we talk about the American people who are hurting, the wide open borders, the inflation that's killing people, the jobs that people can't get because of the cost of goods and services in this country? Sitting here and being lectured to when I don't even have time to look at a $40 billion unpaid bill. I make a motion to adjourn.
$40 billion with a B. Didn't even give people time to read it. This government is so scummy. Joining me now, my friend Congressman Chip Roy, who one of the few Republicans, sadly, who actually voted against this. 149 voted for it. Congressman, does Congress honestly believe that there's an endless shelf life on treating people in this country like crap? Is this something they believe?
Well, Jesse, I don't have the words to put in context how frustrated I am at my Republican colleague that only 57 voted no on a $40 billion bill that was not paid for and that was filled with all sorts of slush fund dollars for the State Department and bureaucrats to dole out in whatever liberal way this Biden administration sees fit. We don't trust these buffoons to tie their own shoes, much less spend $40 billion. Yet Republicans just gave them a blank check because, I don't know, they want their pretty little blue and yellow lapel pin. I don't know what to say, but it's absolutely asinine. We can have a reasonable debate about doing our part to help Ukraine. I've never said we shouldn't. And in fact, I've voted for a handful of resolutions and measures to show solidarity with the people of Ukraine against the horrors of Putin. I haven't worn the uniform like you did and like a lot of my constituents did. I try to represent the American people and all those that do wear the uniform and be somber about what we're doing. And these jackasses in Washington just write a blank check and throw $40 billion to the wind and throw the American people into more debt and more questions about whether their kids are going to be involved in a war while these fools won't even debate it. We had 5 hours, Jesse, before we're voting on this thing.
5 hours. Can you explain exactly how big it is? I want people to picture in their mind what you were given 5 hours to read. How big was this bill, Congressman?
Well, interestingly, unlike some of the monstrosities we get, 2,000-page bills with 6 hours to read, this was actually only a 30-page bill. But let me tell you why that's actually a problem in this case. We didn't debate anything about the substance or the strategy of what this administration is allegedly doing. Now, keep in mind, I've only been given 2 briefings about Ukraine from the administration. Those 2 briefings, they got everything wrong. They said Kiev was going to fall in 3 days, right? They said all of these things that didn't really turn out to be true. And now you've got the administration just coming in saying, we want $40 billion. You've got the Democrats on the Hill saying, sure. And then you've got Republicans, because they're all beholden to the industrial defense complex, rubber stamping it and saying, sure, yes, sir, may I have another, right? That's the problem. And if you look at the 30 pages, there are all sorts of undefined terms. It's just, here's money to the State Department to go do refugee resettlement. Here's money to the State Department to go out to these non-governmental organizations. Here's money for Ukraine on defense purposes, but then we don't know exactly how that dollar is going to be spent. We're doing open-ended things with vague terms with $40 billion unpaid for. I can't stress that enough. Remember the old debate of guns versus butter that you had to sacrifice at home in order to pay for the wars abroad? No. These clowns just say, write another check, mortgage your kid's future, step into the middle of war without an actual debate on war. And that's the other thing. They say things like, well, we're at war. Well, hold on a second. We never declared war. Are we at war or are we not at war? Don't you think we should actually vote on that in the People's House?
We should vote on that. And what blows me away with this, Chip, is I have not heard, and I know a lot of people on the right, normal people with big platforms such as yourself, I have not heard one positive word about this $40 billion yet today. Not one. Not one person has stepped up and said this is the right thing to do. So you mentioned they're beholden to the military-industrial complex. Those are my words, not yours. But don't they look at poll numbers? Don't Republicans look and see we have bigger fish to fry right now? At least my constituents think so.
Well, if I'm giving them some grace, I would tell you that they kind of get caught up in saying, well, we need to stand athwart Putin and not give any rope for Xi or others of our enemies to go down and say they're going to harm America and so forth. But hold on a second. If you're going to have that debate, well, then let's have a robust debate about what our posture ought to be vis-a-vis Putin. Let's have a conversation about what NATO should spend, European allies should spend. Let's pay for some of this stuff. But you don't just go throw half our javelins over to Ukraine and then go, oh, sorry, guys, go write an $8 billion blank check to go fill and backfill our stockpile that just got depleted. You don't do all of this and never open up oil and gas, which is the very thing that empowers Putin. You don't do all of this, write the check, and then don't have an actual hearing or debates here of the entire body, like we somberly have done when we've declared war in the past. No, this is just more of the same. Somebody stands up and says, oh, bad people in the world, America must do something. We write a blank check, and then everybody runs to it. We've got to stop that. To your point, though, the vast majority of the American people are tired of that. They want us to do our job. They want us to focus on home. They want us to secure the border. They don't want us to commit our troops in blood and treasure to war without doing the somber job of debating it.
I have a list here of the 57 nays on this, and something struck me. I'm obviously not going to read all 57, and I said as much publicly this morning. I see names like Roy, of course, on this list, Green, Boebert. I see Cawthorn on there. I see Bishop. I see all these people, and you know what all these names have in common? Massey, of course. I see all the people the system is constantly telling me to hate. I see Republicans, I see regime journalists out there telling me these are all the people who are the nut jobs, the crazy people. These are the people who make Republicans look bad. And yet all the people who make Republicans look bad are always voting the way I want. Can you explain that to me?
Well, that is the swamp that was actually the genius behind Trump's attack on Washington that he saw, and what the American people responded to is getting tired of seeing the swamp do what it does. That's the swamp in action. Those of us, and you'll see, and you pointed out, there were 57 no votes. 28 of those were my House Freedom Caucus brothers and sisters. I wish it would have been unanimous. Take that up with the Freedom Caucus members who voted for this. But there was 28 of the Freedom Caucus, and then another 29 who are kind of like-minded, at least on some issues. That's a good thing, but that's far too few. We need to have a majority of Republicans. We need to have unanimity among Republicans that we should debate on bills. We should pay for that which we spend. We shouldn't be committing our men and women or our resources to a war without having a robust debate about the strategy and what's going to be in our national interest. And we should stop doing the same old thing here in Washington. I will note we had a great debate this morning about border security. We're changing things, Jesse. I just want to make clear it's just taking a little while to get there. But everybody watching this, hold your members to account. Hold me to account. That's why I ran. I'm here to change Washington, change the swamp, and I don't really care who the hell I piss off in the process.
Don't miss Jesse Kelly Breaks History, Che Guevara, the latest episode of a new series available now exclusively for First TV supporters. Visit the First TV app or thefirsttv.com to subscribe and start watching today.